Welcome back to another Rust tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you some new SuperCube designs that I have come up with since the last update. This video may look a little familiar. This was the layout for either my first or my second video on this channel. I saved it and thought I would go ahead and revive it for this video, which is going to kind of expand upon some of these ideas here. The point of these SuperCubes is to store as much of your loot or as many deployable items as possible in as efficient a layout as possible. So using these SuperCubes, you can keep your bases a little bit smaller while storing more loot, having a little bit easier navigation in your base, or just providing you with a little bit of aesthetic comfort. This first layout here, we've got 4 large barrels up top. That's equivalent to 4 large boxes worth of storage. 3 small boxes, as you can see up here. There's 2 back this way and 1 over here. And use these little fire pits, you can kind of step up on them and they allow you to reach further back. You can also reach these barrels by kind of poking in. It can be a little tricky, so you may have to maybe remove this barrel if you want it to be a little bit easier. You've got 4 more large barrels down here. That's going to be 4 large boxes worth of storage. And you've got 2 small boxes. You can reach that one back there, the grill, and then this one, of course, right there as well. So that's one really solid SuperCube to get you started in the wipe when you've got just a tiny little base. This is a great way to maximize that space and still have some functions like this grill here, and like the ease of navigation all the way around, like so. Up next, we've got a triangular half-shelf loot room with these large barrels. As you can see, we've got 6 down below, 2 up top for a total of 8. We've got 3 small boxes down here along the floor, and then 1 up on the shelf as well. You can jump up here and navigate all the way across, so you can reach this barrel and this one, no problem, and actually pretty easy to lay out. So one of the tricks with getting these placements as tight as you can see, like in this furnace room, is taking advantage of the wall thickness that differs between the different walls that you can choose from. So for example, this stone wall here that I'm looking at is a different thickness on this, the soft side, than on the hard side out here. So if you flip this wall around, you'll get a different fit, get a little bit more room one way than the other. And the way that it works is you start by flipping these hard side stone walls. That will create the largest inner area for your build. You press all your stuff up against that hard side stone, and then you flip it to the soft side. You'll notice that some of these things clip that otherwise would never be able to clip with a wall, and it gives you a lot more space than you'd actually think. So give it a try in your base, and you might see that you can stuff a lot more in there than you ever thought. Now, here's another good example of that kind of situation. Getting 3 of these mixing tables squeezed in here so comfortably would be pretty tough if you didn't have the hard side walls facing in, because these soft side walls, as you can see, they kind of overlap sides here, so just keep that in mind. This layout is a little bit different from the one over here, which has the same 3 mixing tables. This one has 3 small boxes and 4 lanterns, which you can use to store low-grade fuel there. This one has the same number of boxes, so it's still got the 3 small boxes down there, but you've also got 3 of these cauldrons parked alongside here. You don't really need those for this, but I mean, you can fit them in there, and I just think it looks so cool. You have a base, it's just full of all of these like very witchy looking mixing tables. That green light is just such a cool effect. I'd recommend putting down the cauldron first. Usually I will kind of overlay the mixing table, kind of like figure out, you know, where I want it to sit, and then I'll put the cauldron on as far left of the mixing table as it'll go. So I'll just squeeze it in right there. That'll be the leftmost point of the mixing table, and then once you set it down, it should fit right over the top of it. And you can kind of work to get it to fit more in the sink basin there if you want, but that's just like a quick and dirty way to make it work. This is kind of a cool battery room concept. I came up with kind of an idea for a battery pod. Now, if you were in like a super large group, or you were playing in like a tournament, this would be a very smart way to both get, you know, automated crafting, which you're going to need for those like sustained PvP situations, but also a little bit of a layer of extra protection for your batteries. So if you put in a tier 3 first, or a tier 2, whichever you have, even a tier 1 up against that far wall. Anyone who's raiding will break that back wall first, probably. You know, they might break the roof or one of the side walls, but that at least gives you a pretty good bet. Once they break the wall, then they'll have to break the workbench as well. Not a lot of raiders are going to want to do that, and it saves your batteries just a little bit longer through the raid phase. You can squeeze in a small box down there. It's got an adapter on it, I think, but I'm pretty sure you could fit one on there if you just squeeze the box all the way back against the wall and then slap the adapter on the front. You've obviously got the 2 industrial crafters on the workbench, the one on top there and the one down on the workstation down there. And then you've got these 2 batteries you can just sit right in. You can squeeze them face to face even, like if you push this battery all the way up against there, you'll lose access to probably both of these crafters and that small box, but it'll be a little bit more protected if you know you're worried about raids. So that's something to consider. And then obviously you've got some barrels and a small box just for extra storage, because you can never have too much. All right, and this is kind of my concept for what you could envision as a like rejuvenation chamber. This one, you've got 2 tier 3 workbenches, full auto craft mode with 2 crafters on them, small boxes below with adapters on them for storage and sorting, small box here, a furnace here, and you know, a little cauldron as well. This locker basically acts as a receiver for kits and meds and whatever you would need if you're respawning from PvP, or if you just needed a quick reset. These workbenches would be crafting everything you need, pulling, you know, sulfur and whatever else, metal, high qual from the furnace, and from whatever is sorted into this box, which could be, you know, sort of like a drop box kind of a thing. All of that gets crafted and sorted into the locker, and then you've got a little campfire cauldron here that doesn't burn you when you stand on it, and you can cook food that will help you kind of recover your health. You can also toss a bear rug here if you wanted the extra comfort, but it does make it a little bit harder to see all the way into the room if you put it in there, so, you know, I try to put it off. Something like that should give you 100% comfort if you're in here, but then you're kind of, you know, in the head of a bear. That's just a good re-kit, reset cube for you there. Just kind of giving you everything that you need for post PvP or post action to get back out there and keep enjoying your time. Now, I've done this design a couple of times, a couple of different ways. I actually managed to kind of make it work better than ever here. I do need to work on actually getting it wired and piped appropriately to see if it actually could work, but it seems pretty possible from what I'm seeing here. My only real issue is I don't love when deployables overhang a garage door like this. It makes them pretty accessible to raiders who can just walk up and open them, you know, and like rake them through the door, which then would destroy kind of the automation process for you. Whether you like that or not, it's not my favorite thing, so I've been kind of resisting the urge to make designs with overhangs like that for a while, but in this video I kind of branched out and tried some new stuff. So what you're looking at here is, let me see here, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 furnaces, all in a 1x1 cube. Like if a large furnace smelts about twice as fast as one of these electric furnaces, I think. But if that's correct, 2 small furnaces replaces 1 large furnace in terms of smelting speed. And in that case, I have 12 large furnaces running from a single 1x1 cube. I think that's pretty neat, and I really like the concept of it. Obviously, this is a nightmare to maintain. If, you know, anything gets damaged, and if your piping is just not perfect, then you wind up with something that could be really messy. So this is a super neat evolution of the Superforge design. And then we've got this one, which is kind of an interesting build. You've got the planter boxes here. I don't think it particularly matters which ones you use. I've got the Frontier Pack DLC, and it looks just really nice. So that's the one that I used. It should work for the default planter box as well. Let's see, we turn the lights on, take a look at our plants. How are they doing? So that one's getting 100% light, and these ones are getting 100% light. That's huge. Now, the really cool thing about this particular design is that you can water them both with 1 sprinkler. Now, I may have missed similar designs to this where this was possible, but so far I have not seen a really good solution for this other than putting them, you know, up against a wall here maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's watering both of these planter boxes at the same time from one water source. And with one battery, like, I don't know, this to me was just such a cool idea, and I've never really built a farm base, but with this concept like put together like this, I think this really could be a fun build. The way ultimately that it works is I put the frame in, obviously I put this metal grill in as well, planter box on top. You might want to do the lighting before you do all of those other steps, just because it is very difficult to wire these once they're up. That's something I really wish that they would fix, the reach for the lights, but I digress. Once you've got the shelf in, you've got the planter box in, the lights in, then you can go ahead and slap a little small sign just right on the bottom of this shelf. As far out as it'll go, it'll kind of like fight you if you try to go any further out than I got it here, but once it's out to that point, you can just slap a little battery on it, easy as, and then you can slap a sprinkler on the side of the battery. I don't love the idea that it looks to be bolted into the battery, but the fact that this works, waters both planter boxes, and only requires one like sprinkler, one water source, that to me is pretty huge. I really love this design for that reason. I tried a couple of other ways, but this was the only way I could get it to actually water both the top and the bottom. So let me know in the comments if you found a better way, or if there's a video I should watch that'll teach me how to do this better. Alright, and this design here is sort of a concept for a shop front base. Now, those two machines there are vending machines that you can see side by side. There's a garage door that is kind of locking them in place, but those two together are much stronger than any of the other walls on this cube, so that's less likely to be the way that anyone would raid in. Assuming that you have honeycomb around these walls. With this build, you've got a large box, obviously. You've got a small box there. You'll also have another small box back there. You can just kind of peek through the workbench to see. That one you can actually place before this big box goes down. Then obviously you've got the tool cupboard here and a cauldron down here. The same kind of way that I did with the mixing tables over there. You put the cauldron down first, and then you put the workbench or whatever down on top of it. This, I would think, would be sort of like a everything else got raided except for my shop type of experience, where you'd have a sleeping bag in the airlock, and this would be your one-by-one home. That's kind of the build concept here. You've got room for auto crafters if you want to set up sort of a med selling versus med components type of shop here. So you'd feed components in, sell them through that one, just to get a little bit of extra cash. As you can see, it fits super nicely in here. There is a little bit of an overhang on this side where they kind of, stick out, but I think it's kind of cute. Now, to look at some fresh concepts for stuff that I didn't know how to put into a video. So this one's a little bit more straightforward. So we'll start here. What we've got is 5 large barrels down there, 4 large barrels up here, for a total of 9 large boxes in one of these 1x1s, which is just insane. I think I could maybe get one more. It would be very hard to reach the back barrel, but if I squeezed another barrel in here. But in this build, I just did it with 9 because I figured that was more than enough. But you can reach the 2 back here with this little fire that I've set down. You can reach these 2 back here actually pretty easily that way. Another thing that you may want to customize on your game settings in your console, your F1 console menu, is your look at radius. You can shrink that radius down to a very, very tiny figure, so that it's more of like a tiny little cursor instead of a large circle that kind of hits anything in that area. For this case, I have it super low at 0.02, so that way I can see and reach really far back into those corners without interacting with anything in front of them. This is one of the concepts for a triangular loot room that I've been playing with. This would be like a super low security type situation. You might put like code locks on these boxes if you're in a group, just so that way, they don't get robbed immediately if somebody just jumps in. There's really no way to actually prevent any of these from being visible and still get them to stack like this. I couldn't really think of a video or like a use case in any of my base builds where a shelf like this really made a lot of sense. It's kind of finicky, and if you remove like anything from any adjacent wall or floor tile or room, it gets real wonky real fast. I'll show you what I mean, but I think it does look pretty cute. Like, this is just a nice way to kind of lay things out if you're setting it up for like a cinematic type thing. But what I mean by, things get wonky if you move stuff around. Like, I'll try moving this box, see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what I figured. The same thing happens if you try to pick up the door frame. You can't change out that door frame for a garage door. So let me show you here exactly how you place these, because it's just pretty straightforward. All right, so you put the boxes down. I usually try to have about 50% overlap of the door frame for whatever you're trying to put things on, especially if it's a smaller object like one of these boxes. I'll show you some more of that later. Just do something quick and easy like this. Then you take a door and slap it down like so, and you should get this blue ghost outline when you go to hover over that box. It's pretty wild that this is still a thing, and it's obviously like not really intended to be a thing, because you could see how janky it was when I picked that other box up. But if you put stuff down now, it doesn't seem to affect it. It's just when you go to pick them up that in some cases it will cause these things to destabilize. I don't really know exactly what it is that causes it, but it seems to largely be based on like proximity to the boxes. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's kind of an interesting thing to keep in mind. All right, here's another example of how you could lay out even like a small base with these kind of stacked boxes. Now I've got another kind of weird stack going on here as well. This is obviously a campfire on this repair bench, and you can put one of these water refineries on it, so that way if you're building a farm base and you've got seawater, you can refine it from within your base, even just on a little workbench or a repair bench like this. You can also put boxes seemingly pretty easily in these like window bars. It really is not very hard at all. And sometimes it'll even like sit on the bar itself. Like in this case, like these ones are not stacked. Like if I pick stuff up, they're perfectly stable, which I think is awesome. Like this is such a cool thing that I had never really seen before. So when I saw it happen here, I was like, need to play with that a little bit more. All right, now in this side here, we've got another 3 stack boxes. Kind of funny, but if you want to have just loot kind of not really safe, but hanging in and out and give yourself a little bit more feng shui, I guess. That's something you can do there. Love the new table. I had to throw it in. It was so good. Here's an example of some more goofy placements. This is a small box on top of an autocrafter. You can also stack stuff on the autocrafters just generally, so I've got some eggs up there. But I just thought it was hilarious that, yeah, you can put a box on top of the workbench itself, but you can also stack it on top of the autocrafter, and it seems to be almost like intended. This is probably the only other one I think I've got for you today in terms of the stacking. But yeah, you can stack on top of these barrels too. If it's the flat-topped barrel, yeah, you can put stuff up on there. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Just some interesting SuperCube concepts for a future base build. Maybe something to inspire you to play around with how some of these objects place in the world, squeeze a little bit more utility out of your space, and get a little bit more value out of your time while you're playing Rust. Because there's nothing more frustrating than spending the entire fight scrambling around your base, trying to find the things that you need to get back out there. There's looking like at least 2 videos for sure in the pipeline on their way. One of them is going to be an update of the weapon rack preview before it was even fully released, and then an update to the Superforge video and a special extra SuperCube included with that layout as well. So stay tuned, and I will catch you in the next Spill Drop video.